We are now in an unprecedented situation, and as I said this morning, we have the double task of trying to get out of the pandemic modus and get into the recovery modus and make sure together to make Europe stronger again. We will work together with President Michel and the Commission in our efforts to get the next EU budget and the recovery fund on the table and agreed. And that is the most important point, I think, for the next weeks. And I hope we can leave it at weeks. We don't know. A link to this goal is also to make sure that we are not just spending, but we are also creating. And by creating, I'm referring to the need to make sure that what we are doing now will help to make what we do in Europe more sustainable and look at our climate. And that is basically referring also to the ideas which are labeled the Green Deal. And at the same time to make sure that what we are doing will help us to have Europe on a more modern, on a more digital footing. And all of that also in terms of trying to make sure that we maintain a high level of social cohesion, because politically speaking, also that is important. And let's see how much of that we will be able to manage by July. Other issues coming our way, for sure, the Brexit. I know it's an important issue here in this country, but not just here in this country. I think for all of us, it's important that we get a good result there, which is by no means a given. Also our way may come the issue of migration, and for sure many issues related to our foreign relations, be it China, be it the Western Balkans, be it the transatlantic dialogue, or Russia. All in all, we need to make sure that we are more capable together to take care of our own interests also, and at the same time making sure that we protect democracy, the rule of law, and the way of our multilateral cooperation. Unity and solidarity, and only together are we able and capable, as I just said, to do all of that. Here with me today, and that is the keynote speaker for what we have as handover ceremony today, is Kim Putters, one of the leading intellectuals of this country. We have been working together already on other occasions. And I can tell you that Kim Putters, who is heading the Planbureau, is also giving a speech to the yearly gathering of the Dutch ambassadors. And what he will do then is to tell them where the Netherlands are, how the Dutch feel, what is their position in Europe, how do they feel about Europe, and how do they see their own future and the future of Europe. And I think all of that we'll hear in a very up-to-date fashion, because I know, Kim, you brought some new figures with you, so we'll get the very latest. And with this, I pass the floor to you, Kim Putters. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Brengelmann, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me to this special occasion. A few weeks ago, UK Ambassador Wilson connected me to the behavioural insight teams from the UK government in London. The thrust was clear. We have to act now and immediately connect long-term goals to short-term crisis policies. The coming months will be crucial if we do not just want to get back to normal again after the summer. The corona crisis exposes more fundamental issues in the way we organize our society and economy. It has shown the dividing lines between different groups in society and within Europe, and it showed it can become deeper. It has revealed that institutional trust can increase in the short run if governments do the right things. But I'm sure it will cause distrust if long-term polarization increases. The support for the EU has grown in the past months as well here. Still, a lot of people think too much power has been given to the European Union. But an explanation for the more positive sentiment could be the awareness that solutions have to be found across borders. We find the same effect in other European countries like Germany at the moment. And that brings me to the German challenge for the coming months. Looking ahead to the post-COVID period, we have quite a task ahead of us, not only in tackling the crisis, but also with the numerous policy agendas concerning our climate, economies, societies, and democracies. And this creates a need to tie short-term decisions to long-term changes, like the behavioral insight teams in London told me a few weeks ago, such as connecting the economic structure more explicitly with sustainable development goals and a broader view on welfare and growth. Let's discuss shortly 3 crucial parts of this agenda here: job security reforms, the Green Deal, and the EU geopolitical agenda. First, our labour markets. A lot of people lost and will lose jobs this period. But more fundamental problems were already there, such as short-term contracts with less social security in certain sectors for certain groups in all of our countries. For the Netherlands, I discussed earlier the position of the lower educated and the migrants. This could be a moment in time for all member states to invest in scholarships, jobs and innovative economic sectors for the future, also in terms of conditions for the support we give businesses. Secondly, the Green Deal also faces a lot of challenges and opportunities. This crisis has led to government support for many companies and organizations throughout Europe. The question here is how a more sustainable world can benefit from this. How can we connect this governmental and European support to the need for a greener and more sustainable industry and broader prosperity? And finally, the geopolitical agenda of the European Union and of Germany perhaps. The EU has to take, and the ambassador from Croatia also already mentioned it, has to take a firm position in the geopolitical arena between China, Russia and the USA. But I would like to add to that reasoning from a citizen's perspective, because that could be the decisive factor whether European politicians get the trust of their citizens. Are we really able to communicate around this agenda, this international and geopolitical agenda, with our people? And do we really take their concerns about open borders seriously? That means finding solutions that support safety, finding solutions that control migration, and finding solutions that support the well-being of all Europeans and not only the well-educated. And that brings me to the second part of what I called the German challenge, taking it to a somewhat higher level, this agenda. Perhaps we should talk about the social contract in Europe. Together with all these challenges, it touches on the social contract. So that means what can people, governments and businesses expect from each other on an economic, social and political level? What about solidarity or preventing polarization? What about rights and responsibilities and democracy? Fighting discrimination and exclusion? The start of this presidency will be the most important phase. Are we really able to guide more fundamental changes in our economies and societies in order to counter polarization, support the vulnerable, and enforce justice and democracies in our societies? This is not just managing a crisis or business as usual. But Europe has faced changes in the social contract before, such as when we transitioned from an agricultural society to the industrial period, or when governments started tackling big social issues on the labour market, in poverty and in housing. We now entered the information society with new technologies and new ways of communication, but also with major issues concerning climate, the distribution of welfare and well-being, and now fighting a pandemic. This calls for institutional trust and reform where needed. The coming period will be crucial for the EU and the trust people have in, for example, the Green Deal, in common policies that affect labour and healthcare and European democracy. The question then is, can our politicians strike to a trustworthy balance between national and European policies? Can they renew our social contract? Can they make it bigger than only separate policies? Can they make a story about the Europe of the future? The presidency's success depends on factors that are partly out of Berlin's control. the development of the coronavirus, the death of the economic slump, and the public's perception of the EU. But this agenda for a renewed social contract for Europe can be set now. Your support as ambassadors is crucial for getting this done and helping Germany doing it. And as far as the Netherlands is concerned, I think we are partners with Germany in many ways. Actually, if I make it very micro to our border relationships, we have experienced again over the recent months how important cross-border solidarity is, for example, when we needed hospital beds for our corona patients. The last slide shows we are rather optimistic about this relationship within Europe. Perhaps we are perceived critically for going Dutch now and then by some of you. But a majority of the Dutch people supports the EU, being more positive than a lot of other Europeans. This last slide shows the Dutch, the blue chart, compared to other Europeans, the red chart. And as you see, we still have a lot of trust in our parliament, in the media, in the future of our own country, and in our quality of life, but for today most important, also in the European Union institutions. Well, let that optimism inspire our political leaders in the Netherlands, but also give some hope to the rest of Europe. Ich glaube, Europa braucht ein bisschen deutschen Gründlichkeit. Ich wünsche den deutschen Präsidentschaft sehr viel Glück dazu und ich hoffe, den Sozialkontrakt will be there in the next coming months. Vielen Dank.
Danke.